Hi guys, Baylee here, and today this is going to be a different type of video. I've been wanting to record this for a long time now. My sister actually came up with it and came up with the title, so shout out to her because bomb title. But I'm going to be explaining my invisible illness because I physically don't look sick and I technically don't act sick because I am so used to it now, but I'm sick and I technically will be sick for the rest of my life. So I'm just going to explain that as best as I can because it has been over a year now since this problem has started. So I'm not going to remember every single doctor's appointment or every single word that's been said. I'm not here to ask for sympathy or anything. I'm kind of living with it and I don't really care now. It's just my life, whatever. But I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just here to explain it because it is not a common illness, especially people my age, because I'm 17 years old. I was 16 when I got this. I actually was showing signs of this illness when I was in 8th grade to freshman year. Like that age, that time zone is when I first started having signs or symptoms, but it wasn't like we didn't add the dots together because I'm gonna jump into it. Try to explain it the best that I can. I'm not gonna know many medical terms because I just don't remember those. I'm just gonna explain it how I know. I wrote them down in my notes and I printed them out because it's been over a year, so I have quite a bit of bullet points. This is gonna be a longer video. I know I've been uploading a lot of toy related videos. I'm sorry, I just haven't gone around to filming because those are all kind of pre-recorded. But this one I am recording right now, and I wanted to film this video before I filmed another video, which I'm going to be doing soon because now I'm going to be posting this. So I will kind of talk about that while we're doing this. So I'm just going to start explaining my life story. This began my junior year in high school. I was in the first semester, so it wasn't really probably quarter one. At the end of quarter one is when I started leaving school and not actually lying. It was during Christmas break is when I never came back to school. So it was my junior year in high school. It was New Year's Eve going into 2018. So it was New Year's Eve. I was at someone else's house. I was spending the night at someone else's house, and during that whole entire day, I was experiencing a lot of stomach pain and nausea. Not just normal nausea where you can just swoop it away and okay, I'll see you later. I was standing in the bathroom, getting ready to throw up. It was the worst nausea I've ever had in my whole entire life. And the thing is, I'm scared of throwing up. So when I get nauseous, I cry because that's just scary. I don't want to throw up. That's awful. And I was at this person's house and I was spending the night at this person's house with their family and I was gonna throw up. Are you kidding me? That's my biggest fear my whole entire life. So it was New Year's Eve. The whole night I was dying. The next morning I woke up with excruciating stomach pain, nausea still. So we were just oh my lord. So I went home after about a week. I was still nauseous, blah blah blah. So my mom took me to urgent care and they did some blood work, the normal thing they do at urgent care. We all thought it was kind of the flu because that's when that huge virus is going around with the flu. And so we thought that's what it was, but I wasn't throwing up, so we just thought it was a stomach bug or something, but obviously that wasn't it. Also, sorry I look like a mess. I just kind of I'm being home all day, so I'm not going to get ready to do something. So I just kind of look like a mess, but whatever. So, I don't know how long this duration lasted because, like I said, this was a long time ago. But eventually, I went to go see a stomach specialist, which I still see today. I'm actually good friends with my stomach specialist and another specialist because I literally see them all the time. But I went to go see a stomach specialist, and then at this point, I actually quit going to school because what happened was after Christmas break, because Christmas break lasts 2 weeks, I stopped going. And then after a while of that, my office people started to get mad. So just to be a B word, I would go and I'd leave during first period just to be sign me out, I'm done. And that happened for 3 weeks because they just wouldn't leave us alone. So I'd go and then I'd leave after first period. But eventually I got paperwork and they were able to give me homeschooling or medical schooling through the high school. So I'm still to this day homeschooled through my high school. But So I stopped going to school at this point. My appetite completely changed. I stopped eating completely. Even to this day, I probably eat like one meal a day. There's some days where I'm feeling really good where I can eat more, but if I eat technically more than one meal, I just die. Like my stomach just can't handle it. And so I usually eat like one meal a day. And no, I'm not no skinny legend, but like whatever. I don't eat a lot anymore like I used to. So I saw a stomach specialist. They did more testing, like blood and other stuff. Um, at first, they were thinking it was stomach ulcers. Sorry for my hand movements. I don't know what I'm doing. At first, they were thinking it was stomach ulcers, which is holes in your stomach lining, basically, which could be caused by anything. And I'm a huge spicy food person, so it could be caused from that. But I'm not like I did not think it was that at all. But they wanted to give me medication for it to try it out just to see if it would improve. So I was on this nasty medication that would have to, it was like a huge pill. It was about the size of this pill. I take this pill, this is a calcium pill, I'll get more into that, but it was about the size of this pill, and it had to dissolve in water, like in a shot of water. And so I would have to take a shot of it like basically 3 times a day, and it basically coats your stomach lining so it protects the holes in your stomach. And that was the worst medication I've ever taken my whole entire life. Literally the worst thing ever. But took meds from stomach ulcers, and it ended up not being stomach ulcers, which is good because stomach ulcers is a big deal. But eventually, between those two timings, I went to the ER one night with my mom, and I'm pretty sure this is where they noticed this was happening. I am not 100% sure because, like I said, this was so long ago. But they had noticed that my thyroid, which is a thing in your neck, kind of, was producing way too much of what it's supposed to be producing. And I don't know the exact terms. I want to say it's like T3 and T4. I'm not completely sure. There's like another thing. But it was producing way more than what it was supposed to be producing shown in blood work. So they wanted me to check that up with a specialist and see if that was a problem because that was an issue with my body that could um, that could affect other things in my body, like my stomach. So we saw a thyroid specialist. Sorry if I'm like reading this. Like I said, I have a lot to read. So saw a thyroid specialist, and he said it was enlarged 5 times the normal size of a thyroid, and it was overproducing. So, I mean, you can see right here, your thyroid is right here, basically. Um, he then diagnosed me with Graves' disease. So Graves' disease is just a thyroid disease, basically. But like I was saying, how I was having problems in 8th and 9th grade is because some of the other side effects of Graves' disease is joint pain, which I was having really bad joint problems in 8th grade. I was taken out of PE, and in 9th grade I was taken out of PE. And 10th grade too, I was taken out of PE, I forgot. So I was taken out of PE for 3 years because of my joint problems. My knees were hurting, my ankles, and my finger joints were hurting quite a lot, and those were the main problems. I was even wearing knee braces for a while there because they didn't know what was going on, so my doctors told me to get knee braces, which I didn't need. But, so I had joint pain and was taken out of PE. And also a thing was for that Graves' disease is overheating. And my big thing was I used to sweat so much on my face that I completely stopped wearing makeup because I would worry more about how my makeup looked than wearing the makeup physically. So I didn't care. I cared more about how my makeup was looking throughout the day and retouching and everything, and it just added more stress on my life basically because I would be like, oh my god, my makeup doesn't look good, like I need to go fix this, rather than I thought I looked fine without makeup. Like I'm not wearing makeup right now and I don't think I'm hideous, but whatever. That's an opinion. But so I had excessive sweating in my face and I was always hot. I can never wear a jacket. I'm wearing a jacket right now. How? I don't know. But I could never wear a jacket. I could never wear jeans. I could never wear long sleeves. Like I could never wear any of that stuff. And I used to be able to. I used to wear hoodies every single day, jeans every single day. Your girl used to rock some UGG boots every single day. I live in California. Like I just used to, like, I was able to handle heat. And then for a while there, I would say for about 2-3 years, heat was not my thing. Like 65 degrees or over was excruciating, was like extremely hot for me. And like I couldn't do anything, like air conditioning, like shorts and t-shirts, tank tops. Like everything, like my hair had to be up like, I couldn't have my hair down. Like, wearing my hair down now feels so weird because I had my hair up for probably like 2 years straight. So I used to sweat so much, and that's why I stopped wearing makeup. And that's the video I want to do for my next video, or a video coming up, is wearing makeup for the first time after a year. But yes, I basically had all the side effects of Graves' disease, so that's why I was diagnosed with it. And the only way to get rid of it is having your thyroid removed. So that's what this scar is right here. You can barely tell because they do it so it's in your neck wrinkle. That's how they described it. So I did have my thyroid removed. I met the surgeon before. We did the whole ordeal, blah, blah, blah. My mom kind of dealt with all that. But I had my thyroid removed, so I would get rid of Graves' disease. So now, technically, I have a past of Graves' disease because I no longer have a thyroid. But the surgery was an outpatient surgery, so I was able to go home right when I woke up. I basically woke up and I left, which I shouldn't have been able to do, but they didn't tell me that you could literally have such bad side effects from the surgery. So I kind of went home with nothing. I just like went home, was just on my medication, just doing my thing. The next day after my surgery, my body had started to like tingle. Like, my legs were tingling, my feet were tingling, and like, it's like the tingling where your legs, like when your feet or legs go to sleep, and it like hurts like to walk because your leg is so asleep, so you try to move it and you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. So it was that tingling. But it was just like weird. It was just like, it wasn't like my body was asleep, because no matter how much I walk, or no matter how much I moved or bent my legs, like nothing was fixing it. And then my hands were starting to spasm. Like, they'd go like this, and like I couldn't move them. And then my face had gone numb, and the main part was that my lips had went numb, so I wasn't able to talk. Like, it was like literally like I had numbing shots all on my face, and I wasn't able to talk. So I call my mom, and we're like kind of laughing about it because I'm trying to talk and I'm like drooling and all this stuff. And my mom's like, well, we gotta take you to the ER. Like, crap, like what the heck? So my mom takes me to the ER. She leaves work early. And they find out that my calcium is low. And if you guys don't know this, calcium is so important in your body. I did not know this at all. I had zero clue that calcium was like such a big factor to literally living. Literally, calcium to me was just like something that was in milk. But no, calcium is so important. My calcium was at 5.5, which was the lowest, or around 5.5, which is the lowest it's ever been. And the average body has the calcium level of 8.2 to 10.2, and I was at 5.5. And that's when my body had gone numb. And if your calcium is extremely low, your body, and you don't catch it, it's kind of easy to catch because you have these symptoms, and especially with mine, I know my symptoms, so I'm able to regulate it now. But then we had no clue that calcium was a problem. I wasn't on calcium pills. I wasn't taking pills for any type of calcium intake or calcium holding. I was not doing any of that stuff. So, my calcium was extremely low. And if your calcium is extremely low, you can end up having seizures. And mine wasn't that low, so I actually did not have a seizure. But, I mean, it's a possibility that it can happen. So, like I said, it was extremely low, like 5.5, which is insane, basically. My mom and I were in the ER for, like, about 10 hours. They put me on IV calcium, which means I basically got an IV, and they just pumped a whole bunch of calcium in me. And after 10 hours, my calcium went up to about 7.5, which is still low, but I was feeling fine, so they sent me home. The next day, we had gone back to the ER because my body had went numb again. And we stayed for another 10 plus hours, and then after that, they had admitted me to the hospital. So I was on IV calcium in the ER, and they didn't see any sign of improvement, basically. I just basically kind of went up to another low number, but my body wasn't holding anything, so they had admitted me to the hospital. So I was on IV calcium in the hospital, and I was taking calcium pills along with the other meds I was taking, and I was also on a heart monitor because I am so young, and this can affect my heart rate, I guess. So I was on a heart monitor, so I actually wasn't in the pediatrics floor, which because I would be in pediatrics because I'm 17, and if you're 17, you're still considered a child. So I was on a normal person's floor because I had a heart monitor, because with a heart monitor, you need to be on this level. So I had a heart monitor, While we were in the hospital, we had figured out that about parathyroids. I'm going to explain that real quick. Parathyroids, they stick to your thyroid, and usually with thyroidectomies, they are usually, some are removed because you have four in your body. Either some are removed, all are removed, or none are removed because they stick to your thyroid. So, for example, my grandfather had a thyroidectomy years ago, and he doesn't have any parathyroids. Um, they didn't think they took any out, but when they were biopsying my thyroid, they found that they had taken one out or more. So I don't know how much I have in my body. I could have one, I could have two, I could have three, but I at least have three. So one was taken out. And parathyroids hold calcium, and mine were in shock from the surgery, from being separated from the thyroid, which can happen to some people, and of course it happens to me because I'm the person that everything happens to. But they were in shock from the surgery, from being separated, which does happen sometimes, and yeah, happened to me. So usually it takes a couple of days. The longest my thyroid specialist said he has seen it was about 2 weeks, and that was kind of crazy for them because it usually did. That was the longest I've ever seen them, like, basically be in shock. They were expecting a couple of days because that's just how it works. Um, Also, while I was in the hospital, my vision had gotten really messed up. I wear glasses every single day now. I had gotten glasses about 2 years ago, but I didn't wear them because I just didn't want to, and I was still able to see without them. But in the hospital, I just, like, I couldn't see far. Like, now I'm blind. Literally, I'm blind without my glasses. Like, I have to drive with glasses. I literally wear my glasses every single day because if I don't, then I'm blind. So that happened during my hospital stay. And also another thing that happened in my hospital is when my calcium was low, it would take calcium from my teeth because that was the last source that it had, and it would hurt my teeth like so bad. Like, it would just felt like I had cavities in every single tooth. But since that happened, I do now have some cavities, and I've had some previous fillings that are hurting me now. And eventually, after 2 weeks of being in the hospital, there was no sign of improvement. I was still on IV calcium. My body would not hold the pills, and I was still on IV calcium. They gave me a PICC line, which is a replacement for an IV because they had to poke me so many times because I would have to do at least 6 blood tests a day. Like, every single 3 to 4 hours they'd come in to take blood work. So they would be poking me in my hand. I get my blood work in my hand because it doesn't hurt me as much, and I don't have good veins, so it was hard enough for them to do that in the first place. But since I had a high IV, they were just poking me way too much, and my IVs actually infiltrated, which means it slipped out of my vein, and it basically was pumping medication into my arm, and my arm had like a bump, like, it was this arm, had a bump like this big, and then they had put it in my arm, on my forearm. Sorry, my hair is falling out. They had put it on my forearm right here, and it infiltrated again. And this calcium was the one that's not supposed to be touching skin, so it actually burned my skin. You can't see it, but to me, I have like a little divot in my arm. I don't know if you can see it. You can't. I have a little divot in my arm. It's actually hard on the inside right here. Like, it's like extremely hard and weird. It definitely felt worse before. It felt like I had rocks on my arm, but now I think it's kind of like evened out. But they did burn my skin here and right here, and so they had decided to give me a PICC line so I would avoid getting infiltrated, and I would avoid being poked. So I just want to show you. This is the scar. You can barely tell that it's there, but I mean, it looks different in person. But that's where the PICC line went. So basically what the PICC line is they had to cut open my arm with a scalpel, obviously, and they basically fed like a purple noodle tube thing in my vein into my heart so they could pump me up with calcium and hydration because I needed all that stuff. But it was just easier. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember it being painful, to be honest, because I mean, it's obviously in a very sensitive spot, so it obviously had to hurt. I just don't remember it, to be honest. But I had a PICC line. The food in the hospital was whack, the most disgusting food ever, and especially for being there as long as I refused to eat it. So I had people bringing me food, like, from fast food and stuff. But like I said, I mean, at that point in the hospital, my stomach was actually feeling better. Like, I wasn't completely nauseous, and I wasn't, like, wanting to throw up every 2 seconds. So at that point, my stomach was feeling better. My mom would sleep with me at the hospital, and my dad would some nights too. And eventually, I just kind of didn't care anymore, so they went home because they still had to work, and so I just slept alone because I stayed longer than we all expected. So they began to test if I can be taken off the IV and just take pills. So they would unplug my PICC line, and I would just be taking the pills instead. And my calcium would drop when I would just take pills. Like my body was not absorbing them, so I had to be back on IV calcium constantly. So after 27 long days and a lot of 600-pound life and home renovation TV shows later, I was able to go home. 27 days of being locked in this stupid room. I was able to leave because I had privilege, basically. But I was connected to a huge pole. Like, I literally had to walk around with this huge pole. But, like, I'm not going to walk around the freaking hospital lobby in a gown with a huge pole. What the heck? So, I was basically in a room for 27 days straight. Worst 27 days of my life, but whatever. I was able to go home. I still wasn't 100%, but I was well enough to go home finally. I was taking up to 20 pills a day, and I just had to learn how to regulate it. Now I do not take up to 20 pills a day. I take less. I wrote it down somewhere, so I'll talk about that. But I was taking up to 20 pills a day. I had to go for blood work at least 4 times a week because they wanted to stay on top of my calcium counts. They were also checking calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium, which they all kind of go together. So if your phosphorus is high, your calcium is low. If your magnesium is low, your blah, blah, blah is high. So it's like everything goes together. So they were checking for all those things. After a while of being out of the hospital, I was doing okay. I had gotten a common cold, which had messed up everything. And my calcium had dropped extremely low once again. And I was experiencing tingling in my face, which is not good. I was taking lots of calcium pills to avoid going back to the hospital because that place is hell. So I was taking more than which I'm supposed to, which is not bad because you can't overdose off calcium, basically. Like, your body will just, if you have too much, your body will just try to get rid of it, which is what happened to me. So I threw up for a day straight, which is awful. But that was the first time I've thrown up. I've never thrown up for being nauseous because of this. I've thrown up for my calcium being high. So now I avoid that. That happened one time to me, but that's because I had a cold and I was getting extremely low, and I was not going to let that happen. So, after everything, my stomach was still giving me problems. It was less frequent. It wasn't every single day. I wasn't nauseous because I was on nauseous pills. I was on nausea medication, which I still take today. So I was on that, so it wasn't killing me as much. They did more testing and they still were not 100% sure with what was going on. I did lots of dieting, like, to avoid the pain. We avoided citrus and we avoided spices for a while, and there was not really a difference. For a week, I did experiment on this diet. I forgot what it was called. There's a term for it, but it's basically where I cut out everything for about 2 weeks. So I had no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no spice, no citrus, no anything basically. And then after that, after about those 2 weeks, my body was regulating. I'd add one back in just to see what would affect my stomach. And the thing that affected me the most was gluten. So now that is why I'm gluten free, and that's why I have those videos of me doing gluten free baking with Bae, because I technically avoid gluten. I still can eat it. I still do eat it, but I just don't eat a large amount, and I try to avoid it at all costs, basically. Like, if I'm able to avoid it, then I will. I choose to be gluten free, but still my stomach pain wasn't every day, but it definitely still was happening. My hair had begun to fall out. That's why I have all these crazy little hairs right here that are shorter than the rest of all my hair, because my hair actually fell out and now it's all growing back in. But it's like crazy and I can't do anything about it. Like, it's too short to be in a ponytail and it just looks crazy. So that affects, my hair fell out basically. Wait, you guys want to know a fun fact? I think my calcium's low right now, so look. So to know if your calcium's low, you basically just tap your cheek right here very lightly. You don't even need to press hard. And depending how low your calcium is, depending how low your calcium is, the more it'll twitch. So you can see my top lip twitching. And I'm barely tapping, so. My calcium is low right now, but I feel fine, so it's like whatever. It's not like so low. I'm not tingling or whatever. I just learned how to regulate it. I learned how to deal with it. So it's much more different situation now than it was then. But yeah, so my hair had begun to fall out. On Halloween of 2018, I was in the hospital and I was doing a prep for endoscopy. I don't know how to say it. And a colonoscopy, which is where they stick a camera down your throat and somewhere else. And they just look at your stomach lining and your lining in your body. And so I had to prepare for that for the next morning. And that was literally the worst night of my whole entire life, but like whatever. And so the next morning I was put under and they had taken 14 biopsies of my stomach lining. And the only side effect from that, like the next day I was able to go home, like it was fine. My throat hurt because they were obviously sticking stuff down my throat. But yeah, my throat hurt. So they had taken 14 biopsies, and about after a week or two, they had found out that I have chronic gastritis, which is inflammation of my stomach lining. And like if when you look it up on Google, it says it can last up to 2 years, but it's like it just comes and goes as it pleases, basically. So I'm hoping it goes away eventually. It's already been a year, so I mean, if it takes 2 years, it's just this year. But I am on meds for stomach problems as well, and I'm doing better. I'm still sick and I will take meds for the rest of my life because one, I don't have a thyroid, so I need to take medication to replace what my thyroid was making. And I'm also on stomach meds, I'm on nausea medicine, I'm on calcium, and I'm also on something called calcitrol that basically helps your body hold calcium, so I'm on that. I'll be on pills for the rest of my life, and hopefully not another low thing happened and I'm able to regulate it by myself because I really don't want to end up in the hospital. But I mean, obviously it's a possibility. I no longer go to school. Still, I do homeschooling or medical schooling through my high school. I am a senior and I will still be able to graduate. I'm just going to be missing out on all the things that you do. I'm probably not going to be walking, but whatever. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not asking for sympathy, but I'm going to be saying this. I do miss out on a lot of things because some days I just feel like crap and other days I feel fine. One of the examples of something that I missed out on that I'm very upset that I missed out on because I was sick was I was supposed to go to a 21 Pilot concert, which is my favorite band like ever. And I was supposed to go and I ended up not being able to go last minute. Like night of, like minutes before we were supposed to leave, I wasn't able to go because I was dying. But here is a picture of something that happened that night. David Dobrik was at the concert, sitting like 4 or 5 rows behind of where I was supposed to be sitting. So there's just an example of something that I was missed out on because of my freaking sickness. So thank you. But if someone like invites me to something or if someone plans something ahead, I usually do end up saying no because I don't want to commit to doing this plan and then end up waking up and feeling like crap. Because sometimes I wake up feeling fine and some days I wake up with nausea and stomach pain and I really can't do much. And now I can get through it, like if I'm like, because sometimes it just happens randomly, like I'll be at work and my stomach will just start hurting or I'll just have a flash of nausea and I know I'm not going to throw up, but like it's still just like you're nauseous, like that's not a fun thing. So I know how to handle it now. I kind of just like blow it off. If I get really bad, then I hopefully am home. But everything's kind of last minute with me. Like plans are last minute. I just kind of like everything's last minute. So my calcium still fluctuates a lot, but I have learned to regulate it. I no longer take as many pills. I probably take about 7 to 9 pills a day, just depending how high or low my calcium is. But I do regulate that on my own. I take my own amount of pills because if it's low, I'm not going to call my doctor and be like, oh my god, how many do I take? Like, I do it by myself. I still do blood tests fairly often, but way less than before. I feel way better. I now have a past of Graves' disease now that my thyroid has been removed, and I have chronic gastritis. And 2018 was definitely probably one of the worst years of my life. But I mean, I'm just hoping that the hard part is over, and like now it's just like taking my meds and whatever. I'm used to it by now, so I just kind of take them it's just like whatever. Like I just wake up and yeah, so I just take them. I probably have other diagnoses because I still have problems to this day, even on all this medication. They just haven't found them, but I am being treated for the ones that they have found. So, yes, I could feel better some days, and I'm definitely not as bad as I used to be. Like, I was bedridden at one point, I couldn't do anything. Um, I can actually do stuff. I work and I babysit, and I am able to like do stuff with friends and family. And yeah, I still worry about it. I actually have like a lot of anxiety about it, like of like being sick or whatever. But I just kind of learned to deal with it or whatnot. Sorry for this little clip, but I forgot to add. Um, I also could no longer have caffeine. I still do, obviously, because I have a problem. But no longer am supposed to be drinking caffeine or have caffeine because caffeine lowers your calcium. So I have to try to avoid that at all costs too. So sad life, but that is my whole spiel. That is my invisible illness, I guess. Call it that, like I said, because I physically don't look sick or I don't act sick. I just am sick. But that is, I think that's everything. I don't think I missed anything. If you guys have any questions, go ahead, comment them down below, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. I don't think I missed any key points. I'm just kind of living it day by day, but I wanted to record this video before I recorded the one because I want to be doing a video about not wearing makeup for a year, and I don't want to have to explain why I quit wearing makeup. I just want to be able to reference this video. So yes, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment down below if you guys have any questions about this. I will answer them to the best of my ability, or video request, and my social media usernames are in the description box down below, and I recommend you follow me on those because I post on those quite often. And yeah, sorry this video was definitely different than my other ones. I'm hopefully gonna be making some different type of content coming up soon. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!